The police lights painted my house red and blue like I'd committed a crime. Not one cruiser. 2. Doors opened all down the street. Curtains twitched. Phones came out. In an HOA neighborhood, flashing lights are better than Netflix. And standing behind the patrol car, arms folded, chin raised, wearing that satisfied little smile? Karen. The HOA president. She didn't look scared. She didn't look concerned. She looked victorious. She pointed straight at me and said, loud enough for the body cameras to hear. That's him. He refused to give the HOA emergency gasoline and then threatened me. Threatened her. I slowly exhaled and looked at the officer walking up my driveway, hand resting near his belt. Sir, he said carefully, we received a report of stolen fuel and intimidation. Stolen fuel. Karen nodded furiously behind him, clutching her clipboard like it was evidence in court. He's hoarding gas during an emergency, she added. That's dangerous. And illegal. The word illegal really sold it for her. She loved that word. I glanced at the blinking red light on the officer's chest cam. Every word. Every lie. Recorded. What Karen didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the officers standing in my driveway worked under my command. Because I wasn't just some homeowner who told her no. I was the police chief. And the moment she called the cops over free gas, she didn't just lose control. She ended her HOA career. Earlier that afternoon, the neighborhood was quiet in that uneasy way that only happens during shortages. People were tense. Power had gone out briefly the night before. Generators were humming. Everyone was on edge. That's when the knock came. Sharp. Deliberate. Confident. I opened the door and there she was. Karen, HOA president, standing square on my porch like she'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror. Blazer. Clipboard. Empty red gas can at her feet. I need gasoline, she said immediately. No greeting. No explanation. No request. For the HOA generator, she added, as if that ended the conversation. I told her calmly, I'm sorry, I can't give you any. Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? I explained that the fuel I had was my personal emergency supply. Purchased legally. Stored properly. Not HOA property. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A mocking one. The HOA overrides personal resources during community emergencies, she said, tapping her clipboard. You're expected to contribute. Expected. That word again. I replied, I'm not part of the HOA. Her expression flickered for half a second. That doesn't matter, she snapped. You live here. I corrected her, politely, clearly, legally, that I had opted out years ago. Fully documented. Fully approved. Her jaw tightened. Refusing cooperation can be considered obstruction, she said. That's when I realized this wasn't about gas. This was about control. I told her no again. Firm. Calm. Final. Her smile vanished completely. Fine, she said quietly. I'll escalate. And she walked off my porch like she'd just signed my arrest warrant. 3 hours later, I heard sirens. Not passing by. Stopping. 2 patrol cars rolled up and parked directly in front of my house. Karen stood across the street, arms crossed, already telling her version of the story to anyone watching. According to dispatch, I had stolen HOA fuel. Threatened an HOA official. Created a hostile and dangerous environment. All because I said no. The officers approached professionally but cautiously. Karen hovered behind them like a director watching a scene unfold. She was scared, Karen said loudly. He was aggressive. I asked for the incident number. Then I asked who made the report. They pointed to Karen. I nodded slowly. All right, I said. Let's do this properly. Karen smirked. She thought the system belonged to her. She was wrong. I reached into my wallet and handed the officer my ID. He glanced down. Stopped. Read it again. Then looked up at me. Chief? Karen laughed. Oh please. Now he's pretending to be law enforcement. The second officer leaned in. His face went blank. The tone shifted instantly. I turned toward Karen. You filed a false police report, I said evenly. Her smile evaporated. That's absurd, she snapped. I was enforcing HOA rules. You accused me of theft and intimidation, I replied. On a recorded line. The officers stepped away from her. Her voice started shaking. I didn't mean. You used emergency services to punish someone who refused you, I said calmly. Silence. Karen wasn't arrested that day. Something worse happened. Internal Affairs reviewed the footage. The city reviewed the misuse of resources. The HOA's lawyers panicked. Within days, Karen was removed as HOA president. The HOA was fined heavily. A civil harassment notice was issued. Neighbors stopped returning her emails. Her authority evaporated overnight. I never yelled. Never threatened. Never broke the law. I let entitlement destroy itself. Karen still lives on the street. But she has no power. No clipboard. No audience. And every time she hears sirens, she remembers the day she called the cops over free gas. And learned who she was really dealing with. I thought it was over. For me, it was. Karen had lost her position, her influence, and her carefully constructed illusion of authority. The neighborhood had moved on. Life returned to normal. Or at least, normal by HOA standards. But karma wasn't finished with her yet. A few weeks later, I got a call, not as a police chief, but as a homeowner. The city had received multiple complaints about Karen. Not from me. From her neighbors. Turns out, once the fear was gone, people started talking. And once people started talking, they started reporting. Noise violations. Unauthorized modifications. Improper use of shared utilities. Harassment complaints dating back years. All the things Karen used to threaten people over. They were now being applied to her. Strictly. Legally. By the book. And without her clipboard, she had no shield. Inspectors showed up at her house one morning. No sirens, no drama, just quiet professionalism. The same way the law always works when it isn't being abused. They found violations. Several. Things she'd ignored because she believed rules were for other people. Her illegal shed encroached on common space. Her generator wasn't permitted. Her temporary fencing had been up for 3 years. Each one came with paperwork. Each one came with fines. And suddenly, Karen was the one pacing her driveway, phone pressed to her ear, demanding to know why nobody was helping her. The irony was surgical. She tried emailing the HOA board. No response. She tried calling city offices. Please submit a request in writing. She even tried knocking on neighbors' doors, the same doors she'd once threatened with fines and violations. Nobody answered. Because authority built on fear collapses the moment fear disappears. Months later, the HOA held an election. Karen didn't attend. A new president was elected. Someone quiet. Someone reasonable. Someone who understood that an HOA exists to serve a community, not dominate it. Rules were rewritten. Transparency was added. Emergency policies were clarified, specifically banning the use of law enforcement as a pressure tactic. They called it the Karen Clause. Unofficially, of course. As for Karen? She still lives there. She still walks the same sidewalks. But now, when people see her, they don't tense up. They don't whisper. They don't move aside. They just keep walking. And that might be the hardest punishment of all. Because Karen didn't just lose power. She lost relevance. She learned, too late, that authority doesn't come from clipboards, titles, or empty threats. It comes from respect. And respect can't be forced. It can only be earned. She tried to take what wasn't hers. She tried to punish someone for saying no. She tried to weaponize the police over free gas. And in doing so, she exposed herself to the very system she thought she controlled. I never had to raise my voice. I never had to threaten her. I never had to say, "Do you know who I am?" I just let her speak. I let her lie. I let her escalate. And then I let the truth do what it always does. Because when someone abuses power long enough, eventually, the power pushes back. Quietly. Legally. And permanently.